Okay. Good afternoon from Lagos. You are welcome to today's training session. Before I start, I would like to show my means of identity as proof of my person that is delivering this course. My name is Jackson Ogenero Ejorume. Before we go into the course proper, I want us to introduce ourselves so that we know ourselves better. As I mentioned earlier on, my name is Jackson Ogenero Ejorume. I have BSc in electrical engineering and master's degree in project management from Project Management College in the UK. And I have over 15 years experience in the oil and gas industry in health and safety professional field. My experience covers both process and construction, but I have been more of a construction than a process through the years. So let me hear from the delegates we have here, starting with Omojade Ukuriegbe.
Yes, Mr. Jackson, good afternoon.
Hello, Omojade, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm also speaking from where you are speaking from. I'm in Lagos.
Johnson, can you unmute him?
Can you hear me very well, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's very,
yes, I
very
can hear
low.
you, but it's very low. But we can hear you.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, Jackson, I'm more just like you already know. I said
The audio is very, very low.
From your location. Actually, I mean, Lagos.
Johnson, let me know when he finishes. I can barely hear him.
I think he's having network issues. So let me do the introduction for myself. My name is Johnson Wala. I'm joining from Doha, Qatar. I've been in the health and safety field for past 13 years. My experience spans across telecommunication, construction, rail, and a bit of oil and gas. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. As more delegates are joining, we will be getting to know more about them. Before we proceed, let us agree on the following in the course of this training. 1, all mobile phones to be put on silent mode while the training is ongoing to avoid distractions. Please minimize other forms of distractions around you if there are any. This presentation is expected to last for about 15 minutes. One person is to speak at a time during question and answer time. Participate actively in the discussions. The session is for everybody. You can also type your questions in the chat box as the presentation progresses. and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. Listen to others when you have made your points or views known. Feedback forms shall be shared with you at the end of the training session to give your feedback about the training and return the forms to me through WhatsApp or email. My email and WhatsApp will be shared in the chat box. Our lesson outline for today is that we are starting from with a recap of last week's training. You recall I earlier mentioned that today's training is a continuation of a last week's training. We had part 1 last week, and this is part 2 today. 2, what are the common injuries associated with angle grinders? 3, common causes of angle grinder incidents. And 4, emergency preparedness for angle grinder incidents. Learning outcome. The outcome of this training include to make delegates aware of the types of injuries that are associated with angle grinders. 2, common causes of grinding incidents. And 3, emergency preparedness for angle grinder injuries. A quick recap of last week's training. Last week, we learned about the type of tools that are known as angle grinders, types of angle grinders, types of angle grinder wheels, hazard associated with angle grinders. And last but not the least, were the inspection, maintenance, and storage of angle grinders. For today, we are going to look at common injuries and causes associated with angle grinders. Common injuries: 1, cut, body cut to operators of angle grinders. 2, strain. And 3, particles getting into the eyes. It should be mentioned that angle grinder cuts can be as dangerous as resulting to fatalities sometimes. So, what are the common causes of grinding incidents? 1, using the wrong wheel for the job or grinding with improper disc. 2, improper mounting of wheel or guard or no guard at all. 3, careless handling. 4, substandard tool. 5, lack of training. 6, repetitive motion. 7, improper PPE use. And 8, improper use of a grinder. Can somebody remind us why we said we needed a grinder to be installed on a grinding machine before we use it? We discussed it last week. Hello?
Hello, can you repeat the question?
Come
Yes.
again with the question.
What are the reasons why we said we should not use any grinder without a guard over the wheel?
I think because we said if there is no guard, the grinder, if shattered, there is possibility that it could cause injury. And when it's shattered, everyone at that perimeter is at risk. Even the user is also at risk because the guard is there to protect the particle from flying and to injure personnel within or even the user. So without a guard, you cannot use a grinding disc because it could pose a very high risk.
Yes, thank you so much. Exactly. The guard is there to protect the operator of the angle grinder, primarily. Thank you for that brilliant response. So we'll quickly look at a brief video of an angle grinder incident. Yes, if he had been wearing the proper PPE, his jaw would not have been injured. You all remember we spoke extensively last week about the importance of wearing complete PPE before operating an angle grinder. And so what are the emergency preparedness required before an angle grinder can be put into use? One, a competent first aider needs to be on site. Two, a well-stocked first aid box. Three, emergency rescue team needs to be present on site. Four, a stretcher needs to be available. Five, an ambulance needs to be available, or one should be available within a very short notice. Six, means of communications. And three, emergency drills should be simulated always to simulate the injury from an angle grinder and how the situation can be handled. Can somebody tell me why we need to have the emergency rescue team on site before we can operate an angle grinder?
I think to me, the emergency, or rather the emergency preparedness team, or the combination of making emergency response preparedness before we use our angle grinder should not be for only the angle grinding activity, but this preparedness should be in place as per maybe a construction requirement and fabrication, or the work itself as per requirement, but not just because of the angle grinding activity that we are envisaging that there could be an incident. So we should have this emergency preparedness in place for the whole work process, because we cannot say we have emergency rescue team for activity that is being done on the ground level, which we know the rescue team should be majorly because of height falling or height activity. So this, for me, I'm just presenting this as it should not be only because of the angle grinding, the emergency preparedness, or rather we should have a stretcher in place because of the angle grinding activity. But these stretchers also should be in place when we are doing confined space job, or rather when we have working at height activity, where we are looking at situation whereby there could be an emergency where we are going to use this material. And also the same thing as ambulance. The ambulance, like now, for example, in Saudi Arabia here, and in some places where you are very close to the returnership clinic, you don't have even first aid center in your facility, because they will tell you within 5 minutes, within 6 minutes, we are already in the retainership clinic. So what we can only have on ground is the first aiders who will be able to respond. And before then, the emergency team will just come and take the IP, as the case may be, to the retainership for medical treatment.
All right. Thank you so much for that contribution. The reason you hear me hammering on angle grinder, it is because of the topic of our training. We are all aware that on a site, there needs to be an emergency rescue team on site always, because you have different forms of emergency scenarios that can ensue on site. But for the purpose of this training, that is why you heard me hammering on angle grinder, angle grinder, angle grinder. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. As it was last week, we will now move to the question and answer session to see what questions have been asked there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson, for the training. My question goes as such. In the angle grinder use, do we have specific training requirements for the operators? And is there a legal document, or is there a legal requirement that says that angle grinder operators must be trained? And what type of training is recommended? Thank you.
Yes, there are specific training required for angle grinders. The training is known as abrasive wheel training. And the abrasive wheel training is not unique to only angle grinders. Even desk operated grinding machines, other forms of portable machines like diamond concrete cutting machine. All these fall under abrasive wheel. But before somebody can be allowed to operate an angle grinder, the person must have attended abrasive wheel training. Then with regards to the specific regulatory requirements, here is OSHA regulations, OSHA Code of Federal Regulation, 1910, Part 300P. That is the one that deals with angle grinders and other forms of portable tools. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful answer.
Where are we with our time?
We are at 17 minutes.
Okay. So we need to call it a day. Is there any question from any other person?
Then, okay, you already listed, I think I will also want to know, as an angle grinder, what are the mandatory kind and type of PPE that the angle grinder should use? Because we have different type of PPE. We have some for hazardous, we have non-hazardous. As an angle grinder, do you require hazardous PPE like the coverall?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for that question. I do not know if you were able to attend the training for last week.
I joined late last week, yeah.
Yeah, last week we discussed extensively the mandatory PPE requirements before somebody can operate an angle grinder. So for the purpose of our time, because I'm under time constraint, so Josie can stop the timer, but we can also discuss, and I can as well oblige you with the list of the PPE required for angle grinder operation.
Okay.
Yes. So is there any other question?